Hey, I'm Michael, and this is Michael in the Middle. It's an intergenerational relational podcast for people who are interested in better human interaction. I'm glad you're here.
Well, good evening, friends. It's episode 32 of Michael in the Middle, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm, still trying to get over some things that have happened here in our city in the last few days, last 10 days in particular. The awful shooting that took place at Covenant Christian School a week ago this past Monday has really made for a difficult time for a lot of us. And frankly, I just didn't feel up to doing a podcast last week. I've taken a week off 2 or 3 times from production, and last week just felt right to be quiet. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing the right thing to even be speaking up now. What I'm going to share with you this evening is actually something that I wrote. I've done that a couple of different times. When I don't know what to say, sometimes it helps me to write some words. And so that's what I've done. And I'll have a couple of comments at the end, but it's a tough time. It's been crazy downtown at the Tennessee State Legislature, and it's dominated the news today. And all I know to say in moments like this is I wish grown-ups would act like grown-ups. And there ought to be more maturity and civility in our politics than there is. No, I'll just kind of leave it at that for now. So with that as kind of a backdrop, and aren't you glad you have tuned in for Happy Thoughts with Michael? Here goes. I have a question for you. Do you believe, even just a little bit, that your best days are still ahead of you? If not, why not? If so, why do you believe that? That turned out to be 3 questions, but they're all related, and the answers really matter. This is the week of Easter on the Christian and retail calendars. Just as is often the case with Christmas, even a certain segment of non-believers want to make sure that Easter gets celebrated. It's good for business, for the church and commercial markets both. But that first Easter felt nothing like good news to the folks who had been following Jesus around for the last 3 years. I'm not sure much has changed in this regard for Christians. Although we know what happened 3 days after the darkest of days. The same crowd that was waving and lining the roadways with palm branches and singing "Blessed is He who comes in the name of the Lord" on Sunday were yelling "Crucify Him" just a few days later. By the time Jesus was actually taking his last breath on Good Friday, it began to dawn on his followers, and really everyone else, that maybe they had gone too far. Maybe Merle Haggard wasn't the first guy to sing something along the lines of "Are the good times really over for good?" Okay, maybe that was going a little too far, but man, Merle Haggard had a way with the word in a song. The followers of Jesus were convinced that everything they had believed in and counted on was all for naught. Their weeping and wailing and woe is me lament was heavy. It was real. They were ready to pack it in, say it was good while it lasted, and go back to their fishing nets or whatever other means of living and they had been following before Jesus came along and invited them to a journey of a lifetime. One of the things I love most about the story of Jesus is that the worst of days turned out to be just a precursor to the best of days. We know this because there are multiple accounts of Jesus' resurrection, of his literally coming back to life. At first, it was almost too much to take in for those who saw him in the flesh just 3 days after they had seen him sealed in a tomb. But Jesus gently yet convincingly let them know that it was real. He was back and better than ever. So again, I ask you, do you believe that your best days are still ahead of you? Do you even want your best days to still be ahead of you? I look around at the political landscape. I watch people choose up sides politically, and it's just crazy. Trying to deify political characters. We're all human, and I think there's a lot of unnecessary hate and angst that gets stirred up over political issues. We dress it up as being righteous, but a lot of times it's just about power. So, a guy, has run for president now a couple of times, talking about wanting to make America great again, as if it's not a great country. But I also get where some of the people who support him come from sometimes, because the way people talk about America sometimes just is equally frustrating to me. We live in a great country. We live in a blessed country. We live in a free country. But we don't want somebody else's freedom to supersede our own. So a lot of people think America's best days are clearly behind us. Maybe they are, but I don't think they have to be. I get it. There are days when I watch or read the news, or worse still, I get on Twitter or Facebook and I end up wondering, when will it ever get better? I wonder if humanity has it within themselves to lay down their self-serving identities in favor of genuine care and concern for one another. And at times I wonder how a loving God could allow such awful behavior to occur in the lives of the very ones he created. And I do wonder if there's any reason to believe that things can get better. Well, here's where I'm headed with this. I'm here today, tonight now, to proclaim that I do believe our best days are still ahead of us. Or maybe I should say, I at least believe that our best days still could be, but only if we let it be so. God has already proven that he will let us have our own way. It's called free will. And I've come to believe that being able to determine our own destiny sounds great until getting our own way all the time ends up with that feeling we get when we eat way too much chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant. It's awesome to have unlimited access to such pleasure, but by the time the actual entree arrives, at least for me, we're already feeling a little too full to eat. What usually happens, and again, this is by personal testimony, what usually ends up happening is that the next several hours are spent wondering whether we will live through the night to tell of our regret with vows to never repeat such an episode again. Stay with me. I know this sounds like I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm about to land this plane. I really do believe our best days can still be ahead of us. And I'm not simply talking about the sweet by and by in heavenly realms. I'm talking about today, right where we live. I believe our best days can still be ahead of us because I believe the central message of Easter. That is, love has the final say. As a Christian, I believe the love of God in Christ has the final say. Our best days can still be ahead of us, but only if we want them to be. I'm going to say it again. Our best days can still be ahead of us if we want them to be. The central message of Easter is that the powers of darkness do not ultimately win the day. For a while, it can feel so dark and hopeless. And for those of you who are hearing me just now that feel like life is futile, painful, without joy, I want you to know that I feel for you. I see you. I hear you. I know that you're out there and that there are people who are genuinely struggling. I also believe this, that whether it's because of our own choices or because of the pain brought upon us by someone else, some days it just feels like too much. My only request of you is that if you find yourself in that kind of place right now, it's that you reach out to someone and simply say, I need some help. I need hope for a better day. If you can't find someone else, even if we don't know each other yet, please reach out to me. I want you to believe that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is available to you. And that's something that gives me hope every day of my life. I know this to be true. Our circumstances don't always change for the better overnight, but our outlook and attitude can. I've personally had to apply this idea myself. I often say, with intention, that every day is a good day, but some days are better than others. There are days when I wish I could wave a magic wand and take all the pain away for everyone. I don't have that kind of power for others, much less myself. But I set my mind on things that are noble and aspirational. It's something that I choose to do. I set my mind toward the goal of loving God and loving people, and almost always, when I do something good for someone else, my own perceived problems seem to diminish. I don't believe my best days are ahead of me because of any good that I have done or any good that I have in me. I believe my best days are ahead of me because it's like oxygen for all the vital organs inside my body, and especially it's vital for my soul. The pettiness of political pandering wears me out. Watching people beat each other up in person or online makes me want to throw up. And seeing people fight for gun rights and abortion rights with little regard for the lives lost in the process makes me weep. The list of woes could go on and on and on. Yet, I still believe a better day is coming. I believe a better day is coming because I believe in the resurrection of Jesus. And I believe that that resurrection story gives us the promise that a better day is coming. I also believe a better day is possible today, but only if we want it to be. So get out there in the middle of doing something good for someone else today, right now. Figure it out. Think of who you can do something for that maybe can't do anything for you, but you know they need a hand. They need a helping hand and a caring heart to pay attention to what it is that they are dealing with. If you get out there in the middle of doing something good for someone else, I know it'll make a difference for the one that you help, and it will make a difference in you too. And if you do that, if you stack enough of those kinds of days on top of each other, I guarantee you that your best days are still ahead of you. I believe it with all my heart. If you're listening to this podcast, even if we don't know each other, I want to extend my best wishes to you during this Easter season and assure you of my love and concern for you and whatever it is that you may be dealing with at this point in your life. Caring for another person allows you to take the focus off of yourself long enough to allow God to help you help someone else, and it helps you in the process. It's a broken record. I need to lift the needle and move on. Thank you for being here. Happy Easter, and we'll see you next week with a very special guest that I know you're going to enjoy, and you'll hear a voice other than mine. But for now, be well.